Tracy! Dick Tracy is the most decorated police officer in the nation. He is regarded widely as a legendary law figure that always gets his man. He was one of the first detective characters in fiction to use real forensic techniques in modern literature. And he had a fancy two-way wristwatch that allowed him to communicate with anyone he wanted to in the world, which, was a really big deal in his time before cell phones existed. Given Tracy's usual targets are just gangsters and Nazi spies, the brutality and scale of the Bay Harbor Butcher's body count would almost certainly get his attention. And given his iconic and legendary reputation as a police officer, Miami Metro would be honored to have him lead the investigation. If you thought everyone in Miami Metro were in awe of Lundy, working with Dick Tracy would be the police equivalent of working with Elvis. Absolutely everyone in Miami Metro, even Matthews, would gladly follow his lead. For a while, Tracy's investigation most closely mirrors Lundy's from the original Dexter story. Tracy has both the respect and cooperation of Miami Metro. He hits it off with Deborah and pulls her out of her depression. He comes to the same logical and forensic conclusions about the victims, the boat, and the Butcher's law background. And Dexter really feels the pressure when Tracy gets equally disgusted as Lundy was by Masuka's vulgar personality. So just like Lundy, he also keeps Dexter closer to the investigation to help consult over the forensic evidence at the site of the botched Bay Harbor Butcher copycat crime scene. This, however, is where the version of events from Lundy's story completely change with Tracy in the pilot seat. Because while Lundy's personality is more wise, cunning, and reserved, Tracy's personality is more like Dokes. And Dexter and Deborah both will be witness to Tracy's surprisingly more violent nature. During the interview at the scene with the surviving victim of the copycat killer, John Henry, Deborah asks why the Bay Harbor Butcher would target him if the Butcher only targets murderers, not thieves. At this point in the original story, John Henry admits to an incident that while he was stealing things from the elderly, his known criminal past, he gave an old woman a heart attack by complete accident. When Lundy hears this, he just makes kind of a disappointed face and makes a snarky comment, but Tracy is another animal. Tracy would immediately think this guy is a scumbag, which he is, and the interrogation would rapidly escalate to violence as Tracy continued to question, threaten, and beat the absolute hell out of him until Tracy is satisfied with the information. Even if Dexter doesn't see this personally, John Henry will still have the bruises and Deborah's testimony to rely on that Tracy pretty much beat the snot out of a guy without hesitation. This violent outburst would inspire Dexter to keep a closer eye on Tracy, willingly replacing Masuka at the station interview later on when Ken Olsen, the real copycat killer,